Hello and welcome to Switched On Discussions. We wanted to bring up a topic near and dear to our heart, and that is remake versus remasters versus re-releases, i.e. ports, and what do we favour and what do we think the pros and cons are for each, because we live in an era where we have the remakes, where we have the remasters, where we have the ports, whether they're up ports, down ports, all three exist. So straight away, out of those three, what immediately is your preference when you think, if I can have a game I've already played before, how would I have it this time?
I'd have it... It's a very good question. So if it's a game I've played before, but I want to see better graphics, it's got to be remastered. But if it's a new system, say like the Switch, I'm happy with a port.
Alright. You didn't mention the word remake there.
Yeah, remake. Well... Remake is can be kind of hit and miss. If they remake it right, Ocarina of Time, 3DS, absolutely brilliant. Downside is it's a lot easier than the 64 version because I've played for both versions.
Oh man, I think it's good.
But not in a bad way, easier. I think the fighting's better, definitely.
I think it's good that you brought up Ocarina of Time actually, because I remember an interview, it was probably looking at 2010 maybe, this interview, and they were discussing with Eiji Onomura remaking Ocarina of Time, and I'm hugely paraphrasing here again, lack of confirmation on article and exactly what it said, but this is an actual discussion that was had, and he said that the problem with remaking a game is you don't want to infringe on the original vision. So people have nostalgia and love and memory for how a game was. And let's take Hyrule Field, for example. If you take that and you change that, it's not Ocarina of Time all of a sudden, if that makes sense. It's not really the same game and how you remember it. So some of the nostalgia is taken away. But at the same time, you don't want to be too true to what was there before, because otherwise it is just remastering. And it's just essentially re-releasing the game again with, a tweak here and there. And I think they were hiding up their sleeves Ocarina of Time 3D, which is a good balance between the two. It's on a system that is obviously much more powerful. All that's handled is still much more powerful than what came before. It's able to produce better textures, higher graphical detail. They kept the world the same size. It felt the same. It felt the fact that it was almost like a remaster meets remake, if that makes sense.
It's a cross, isn't it? It's a bridge.
Yeah, it's not a polygonal face for Link. It's an actual new character model. It's not just remastered, but at the same time, everything it feels at least the same distance away, and you're seeing the same things in the right places. Instead of a flat wall with a painted 2D forest, you're getting the illusion of a 3D forest on the horizon. So yeah, it's kind of an in-between. Still not quite a true remake, but I think it's a good notion to take on board. There is that danger when you remake a game of losing really everything that the game was.
Yeah.
Taking away what the game meant and essentially just taking the plot and putting it in a whole new place.
Great example of a remake is Street Fighter 2 Ultra that they brought out on the Switch.
But it's still kind of, I suppose, yeah, it is a
remake.
remake. Yeah, so by definition, it's a remake, right?
Yeah, and it didn't feel the same as the original Street Fighter. The music was slightly off. It's more Super Street Fighter than it was Street Fighter.
It didn't feel very 16-bit, even if you could turn on those.
Yeah, it did.
Visuals and sound. There was something not quite there for the feel. I suppose that's the bottom line. The word. There's no better way to put it. The feel that you have for the game. Personally, I'm in the remaster is probably the preference for me, just because you're taking a game for the reasons we just said, that it's the same game, and it just performs better on a system that is more relevant to you at the time, potentially, right? So you play the game on a PS2 and then you get to play it on the PSP or Vita or PS4. You're playing it here and now, but you're not having to deal with some of the parts that haven't aged well visually. I mean, it's great. It looked great when you play them, but when you're used to seeing something at a certain time, a certain frame rate, a certain resolution, a certain clarity in the jaggies around the pixels, and you jump back to the PS2, it is hard on the eye. Even if you love that game and it's near and dear to your heart, but it's still if you could just smooth it out, I'm more inclined to go that route. I mean, I love booting up my systems and playing them in their true form. But still, if there was going to be a remake, I'd take the remaster.
Yeah, definitely, because obviously you're looking at the visuals. Prime example, or a good example, that you can kind of remake it yourself, or you're modding it, is GTA Vice City. When you mod that game and smooth out the graphics, okay, it makes it like about 5 times as big, which is comes up to about 10 gigabytes.
Oh, space.
Yeah, space. It's only about 2.5 gig.
Yeah,
It's all textures.
Yeah, biggest part is textures.
There's still stuff you can't quite get right because you have to mess around with the mods, but you can get it to a point where it looks awesome, and it looks really good.
But with PC though, that's always been the joy. It always kind of is a remastering.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Especially if you ain't running the best system that you can get at the time. You play a game and then 5 years down the line, your graphics card plays the game again, and you're like, wow, I'm in 4K super sampling down from 8K or whatever, down sampling from 8K, and all of a sudden everything looks a little bit more crisp. Yeah. And then there's obviously texture packs, fan-made texture packs and whatnot.
Which is kind of why I'm probably more inclined with remaster, because I know that on something like a PC we could mod it and mess around with it. And I think the games that are going to be interesting, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Shadows of the Colossus.
See, 7's a really interesting one because it's near and dear to a huge number of people's hearts, right? It's for a lot of people, especially in the West, it's the first real exposure to RPGs or JRPGs. Epic game. People love the story, people love the characters, people love the music. It was so big for its time.
Yeah,
how long it took to do, and it's just a brilliant game all around. And then it's very particular in its gameplay, and the remake has all the visual flair that I think everybody wants because that is so far removed. See, that's where I can see a remake making much more sense. The PS1 games didn't age very well. I mean, Crash Bandicoot is another great example.
Yeah,
it looks fantastic on the PS4, and I'm glad with the way that it looks. And they kept the game core mechanics the same. For better or worse, for frustration to enjoyment.
That game was frustrating as hell.
No, but if you remember the game, you remember it the way it plays now. Like, it plays the same. That's the point.
With the annoying viewing angles where you're missing the jumps because you can't see what you're doing.
See, there is always that room, and I think it's about how far you go, that room to tweak to make the game slightly better.
Yeah.
But not taking away the original experience, I think a lot of these classic systems, like the Nintendo classic systems or the classic games re-released and like a bundle and a disc, they have that rewind feature when games were perhaps a bit too hard. Makes them a lot more enjoyable because it's no longer I've got to do the whole section again. No, I just rewind and go back and do that bit again, and it's a bit more fun. But yeah, seven's an interesting one because they essentially are saying we're changing the core mechanic here, maybe too much. But again, we can't say for sure. No one can say for sure. It's a bit concerning. I still don't get rid of that Switch, but I digress. But lastly, to your mention of ports, I think that's a good way of putting it. When you can get the game on a system that allows you to play that game in a circumstance where you otherwise couldn't.
Yes.
So with the Switch, you can play L.A. Noire, for example, on the go.
Which, by the way, if you guys haven't played it, it's a brilliantly, really underrated game.
I haven't played it.
You haven't played it. It is worth a play for. It's not for everybody,
but
if you like to be analytical, it's a very, very good game.
But that's where the port makes sense because now it's more accessible to a whole new audience who are able to play it in a different way, and they're not compromising on the original vision really because graphically speaking, it's probably at least on par with what it was when it first came out. Because it was on a pre-gen system, so the performance is the same. It's the same with Ocarina of Time 3D being handheld.
Yep.
That being a remaster, remake in between, it was more than what I'd hoped for. I would have been happy with Ocarina of Time 64 on the go. And then you got Mario 64 DS, which is kind of a port / remaster.
It's a
kind
remake.
Of a demaster, really.
Yeah, it's a demaster.
It's demake, if you like. Yeah.
I think it lost its original feel. The original feel of that game, having the 4 characters in there. I didn't like it very much. I've got it. Ironically, I've got it because it's the only way I can play that game without having an N64 anymore because I ended up selling mine because I couldn't get a good picture on the TV. I don't own a CRT TV.
Hey,
So
you not heard of Project 64?
Yeah, I know, but I want to play it with the original controller.
It's coming. It will come to Switch. It will.
Or N64 Classic. If I get it for N64 Classic, I don't mind. I'll sit there and play it.
It's going to be good. It's going to be real good. Now,
we're waiting for that one.
I have all this builds up to a point / idea that I think would be a great option for consumers, which I haven't really heard discussed before, so I'm not saying I'm the first to sort of come up with it, and I'm not saying it's a great idea, but just one that is worth considering. You have a game engine and a modern success like Super Mario Odyssey. It's critically well received, 10s across the board, 9s across the board. It's a great game. It might not be your favourite Mario game, but it plays probably and handles better than any Mario game before, both in terms of controls and camera controls once you get used to the differences.
Yep.
It's probably the best looking Mario made because, again, you're talking increased hardware over the years.
Definitely the best looking.
So, in this day and age, you have the ability to deliver DLC. What if you could deliver Super Mario Sunshine, for example, or Super Mario 64, as a DLC component to Odyssey? Not just a level, the whole game built or reported, if you like, into that engine. So it has the same visual style, graphical fidelity, controls, camera movement.
Yep.
Right? You obviously you take the Cappy feature out and you'd pop in the mechanics for a flood. Or, just have the pure Mario 64 gameplay.
Yeah, which is...
I just think that is a great middle ground because it's allowing you to have access to those older games, have them effectively remade or remastered. They play better. They are compromising on the original vision, yes, but they're giving you a different perspective on how that game could be,
yes,
given the modern day controls in which they are, and it's not overcompensating too much.
No.
And from Nintendo's perspective, you want the game, you got to buy the base game, right? It's DLC, so that makes sense from them from a financial decision. And then from us as a consumer, we buy the base game, and then we can get a whole other game built in, which nowadays is probably like DLC because they're a lot smaller relatively to what games are released to now, especially Odyssey compared to 64, and you get a great experience. It might not work for everything, but for games like Mario,
Zelda, you could have both of those too.
Mario Kart's kind of done it when you think about it.
Yeah,
Mario Kart 8, right? Here's the course you remember. It plays like this now with these cars, and it looks like this.
Yeah, true. They've done it with that, so why couldn't they? And something I've kind of realised is if you look on the Switch, they've got the 4 arrows, which come from the N64 originally as the C buttons.
Oh yeah. I suppose when you think about it, that is. I didn't notice that until you said that.
I've just realised
it's a C-pad, if you like.
Yeah, it's a C-pad.
It's a
So imagine playing a Switch that way around with all your buttons, and you're having like. I'd love to. I still want GoldenEye or Perfect Dark. Either of those two games would be amazing. Just as a because they remade it on the 360
as a remaster, a remake, a port, or a. Well, you can't have it at DLC because no current game. But how would you have it out of those three?
I'd have to have it as a remaster on the Switch. Well, it would be a port stroke remaster because of the graphics. You'd need the graphics jump.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think you would. Yeah, I think you would. I think if you go Ocarina of Time 3D level of improvement, the question is, with those games, they were the first majorly, I suppose, what's the right way to put it? They hit the market on a wide spectrum for first-person shooters on the console.
Yeah.
And they done it really well, and they done it with one analog stick and a
C button
stick, or pad, if you like. The problem is, since around 2000, 2002, all shooters have been this twin stick system.
So why not change to a twin stick? You'd only mod it slightly.
It's true, but then we start talking about the feel of the game, and it comes back to, is this GoldenEye we're playing, or is this like Halo, but in GoldenEye's levels?
But if you think about it,
well, you can't jump.
If you've played, like I've played GoldenEye now, and it feels horrific trying to play it.
Frame rate is an issue. Your field of vision is an issue. Your non-twin stick control is a massive issue. You don't have. I mean, you have auto aim to compensate for the lack of controls. It's pretty much, you can turn it off, but if you do, it's going to be extremely hard to play.
Yeah.
But you look at what Perfect Dark, remaster, if you like,
Yep.
on the Xbox 360 did. And that was close to perfect in terms of it did still feel a bit too fast and floaty and was a bit hard to control. But in terms of controls, it allowed you that twin stick setup that sort of fixed some of the issues. But again, the game built from the ground up, when you pop up and pop down, there's like a bounce to sort of, you sort of shoot up to the head, like, right? You don't just stay looking at that angle. And it would be interesting if you lose that feel.
Imagine remake of GoldenEye, twin stick, playing temple level multiplayer.
Yeah,
that would be a laugh.
That would be the dream, right?
It would be funny to play, because it's one of these games that I think that if it was remade, if they got the license, it's not probably never going to happen. But I think it'd be a funny remake or port remaster to do.
It's so not going to happen though. Man.
I know. We can dream.
But this is why it's a shame that Rare took Perfect Dark with them and Nintendo didn't manage to hold on to that. Obviously, it is Rare's, that's why they took it from them. But you could have had a Perfect Dark Switch game, and then again it goes back to my DLC. Download the original levels, and you effectively got gold now, right? You download the weapon packs, and you got gold now.
I just think, would you not? Does it not occur to you that the way Nintendo is now are they going to allow those kind of ports? I think they will. I think if Rare just said to them, or Microsoft said, look, these are old games that were originally on your systems. We want to remake it and port it to your system. Would you be okay with that? I think they'd say yes.
But you got to start thinking, why would Microsoft do it? There's some valid reasons. You know, they've got the Halo franchise. They have their first-person shooter franchise sort of sewn up. Would they need another one? Is there room for another one? Is there room for Perfect Dark? You know, a strong female lead. Yeah, there's always room for that, I suppose.
Look how well Tomb Raider's done.
Yeah, but maybe
that is a remake. Tomb Raider is a remake.
No,
from the
I don't
original.
think it is. No, I think it's a prequel. It doesn't even touch on what the first game is.
I know where the first game starts, but technically, because Tomb Raider's already been out, it is a remake of the same franchise. Rather than a remaster.
So there comes the third R, Reboot.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like to coin the movie business, right? It's a reboot. And that's, I suppose, the left field option there.
Yes.
I mean, other than my left field one. But
what about right field?
Right field. Yeah, no, it's a bit of pork, right? No, but so remake, remaster, re-release, reboot, or DLC in a new engine. That's the proposition we've put to you. What do you think? I'm thinking my own idea.
Yeah.
DLC into modern engine. Hey, I would love to play Twilight Princess in the Breath of the Wild engine. Seeing as the game had so many flaws to begin with, to have it with all that freedom.
I wouldn't mind to play Twilight Princess with decent controls.
You just turn off the climbing mechanic and you've still got one of the better controlling games.
Or leave it on and just let him climb whatever he wants.
Yeah, but then it would be a full different game at that point.
Yeah, it's true, actually. Well, you don't need to climb in Twilight Princess.
No, it's just classic, isn't it? The auto jump, auto climb up to the correct height to get where you need to be.
Yeah, so you actually don't need
Can you imagine when you're in the Twilight mode with Wolf Link and the graphics with that art style?
It would look beautiful. That's what I was thought about. Imagine having Mario Sunshine into Odyssey's engine. I could see it. It could definitely very possible.
Totally could do it. It fixes some of the gripes with that game.
Yeah.
The camera wasn't perfect. It's a lot better than Mario 64. It's the progression of time, but
imagine playing Mario 64 with a good camera angle and working at the jumps better. Would it be easy?
See, this is my idea. My DLC content, as it were. Download a whole game as a re-engine. Re-engine the game, right? Oh man, that would just be one can dream. I don't see it ever happening, but we see it sort of in Mario Kart. We've said it already, but Mario
Kart.
You get to play certain levels in Mario Kart, but from old games.
I'm going to add one more point about reboots. Reboots are not always bad. Sometimes they are bad.
Tomb Raider was a brilliant example.
Probably the best reboot
that
I've seen in many years. What a game. But the time was right to do a reboot because you're looking at 4 generations. I know there's been other games in between, but if you look at where they went with it and how they've started. They've gone before the whole storyline. So technically, it is a prequel, but it's a reboot prequel.
Yeah. They're basically
They didn't want
tends to be the consensus nowadays. Reboot and take it back a little bit more to give it a bit of context to what you're doing. I think Metal Gear Twin Snakes, just for we round up, that was an example of a game that I personally really liked. It was a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 in Metal Gear Solid 2's kind of game engine. Okay. So it's a little bit of like what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
But the game lost a little bit of the vision from the first game. It wasn't as straightforward and what direct is what made the first game so good. It was a lot more story into it, which I preferred. A lot more cutscenes, which again the franchise went that way anyway. But having that extra freedom was a Marmite factor for some. I like the idea of being able to grab people, put them in lockers, find dog tags, which you couldn't do in the first game.
Yeah.
Which you can do in Twin Snakes.
I never really played it, to be honest. I ended up playing Splinter Cell, sorry.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That's essentially needing a reboot. That could be around the corner.
That could be. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not the massive stealth fan. I'm just all gung-ho. That's just who I am.
Hey, go in with a shotgun.
Yeah, exactly.
Doom.
Exactly. Mate, I'm Mr. Doom, shotgun, chainsaw, IDQDD.
Oh man, I'm Tomb Raider.
God mode and IDKFA.
I played the whole Tomb Raider with a bow and arrow. Just took my way through it slowly but surely.
Yep.
But we do digress. What do you think? Reboot, remaster, remake, re-release, or re-engine? Say switch up. I'm trying to use the mouse to click this one.